Sunshines, it's your girl Monet, aka Political Bae, and we're back this week to talk about some really interesting news. New York State has decriminalized marijuana. The bill went into effect this month, I believe, a few days ago, probably 3 days ago. And I know everyone is like, it's time to turn up, it's time to smoke weed everywhere, but that's not exactly what this bill means. There's a few caveats and a few pitfalls that I think everyone needs to be aware of. So let's get into the video. So let's talk New York State decriminalizing marijuana. First of all, why was marijuana even illegal in the first place in the United States? So in the 19th century, after the Mexican Revolution, a lot of people from Mexico began coming to Texas, Louisiana, the southern states, right? And they smoked what they called marijuana with an H instead of a J. The people in America had already been smoking cannabis, but marijuana was then, criminalized as a way to sort of dehumanize and then demonize the folks that were coming from Mexico. And we kind of see how that works because we're currently living through it with the Trump administration. And that's why I think it's very important to recognize that not everything that is illegal is wrong and not everything that is legal is necessarily right. So let's distinguish between legalizing and decriminalizing, right? To legalize something means that you're removing all of the prohibitions away from what said thing that we're discussing. And in terms of marijuana, that means that people are allowed to grow and cultivate and smoke weed in private and things of that nature. And then down the line, eventually folks would then sort of come up with a system to have like an open legal market for marijuana. That's not what's happening in New York State. So when Cuomo signed this bill to sort of make marijuana decriminalized, what that means is that up to 2 ounces will be, I think, a few $100s fined, but over that, you will definitely be arrested and probably be taken to the precinct. So it's really important to recognize that just because it's decriminalized doesn't mean that it's, it's legal and it's something that you won't necessarily get in trouble for. You can sort of think about legalization and decriminalization in terms of one thing you can do without any penalty, and the other thing, it depends on how you do it, depending on the penalty that you will get. So there are about 4 things that's problematic about this bill, right? So the first thing that's problematic about this bill is that you will still get tickets and violations depending on the officer that interacts with you. If you are stopped by an officer while smoking weed in public, or while, if you have to interact with the police for some reason and you have weed on you, right? And the issue with this is that you're still, sort of being reprimanded for it. And that also means that your housing and your employment can be affected by this, right? So when you do get cited for these tickets and you get cited for these violations, it is still on your record, and it's still on your record for a long time. Now, with the decriminalization of marijuana, those that were in prison and things like that, that had sort of harsher penalties for marijuana, those things will be expunged, which is a great thing. However, if you get new misdemeanor charges or misdemeanor violations, which sort of equivalent to like a traffic stop ticket and things like that, that will stay on your record. So in some cases, employers, creditors, landlords will have access to that information. So you can also still be arrested for having 2 ounces of marijuana on you under these circumstances. One, if you are out of state and you don't have an ID, you can be arrested and taken to the precinct to be identified. So we think that that's problematic for a number of reasons. One, because we know that just any sort of interaction with law enforcement, the way that police brutality happens throughout the nation is, it's sort of a possibility of things escalating in the way. And that leads into number 3 of why this is sort of a problematic bill, why it should just be legalized in general. Just because, what we're gonna see is that marijuana stops are gonna sort of be a gateway for, larger arrests, right? Like we've all seen videos of, police officers arresting people not resisting and them, being charged for resisting arrest, right? So things like that is going to be something that a lot of public defenders is going to, have to litigate down the line in terms of this bill. So that's number 3. And number 4 is obviously because this is sort of at the hands or at the discernment of what officer is interacting with whom, Black and brown people will still be disproportionately affected by this new marijuana bill, right? Historically, we have seen how these things sort of play out. Even in 1977, there was a Public View Act that was placed in New York State that should have limited the arrest for marijuana possession, but NYPD and the court system disregarded that and continued to put hundreds of thousands of Black and brown folks in jails for about 40-something years now, right? So I just want us to be really mindful. Even though we can celebrate this step towards the right direction, we sort of have to take a critical thinking, approach to how we're evaluating this. One is, if it does become fully legalized, who is going to be able to have access to the market? Will it be communities that have been historically negatively affected by, the criminalization of marijuana? That's something that we have to stay on top of, and that's something that we really should be wishing for and hoping for. And two, we also have to be mindful of who these new sorts of laws and endeavors is going to affect most, right? In the past, we watched it affect predominantly Black and brown folks, and we have to try to sort of surveil how this law is going to play out so it doesn't happen again. So that's my explanation and my caveats and the things that you need to watch out for the new law that has been passed in New York State. You already know the drill. Like, share, subscribe. I'm on Instagram and Twitter at Monet Who Else. So, and just remember what Mama Duck always says. You are who you say you are. So be who you say you are. Bye.